Hey everyone. Obviously, if you saw my last video and you see this one, you'll realize it's the same day. I tend to do that. I get in the mood to film, and this is something I kind of had thought about for several days, and I actually recorded it a couple days ago. But I felt like that was just kind of too scattered and too all over the place. And while I don't feel like this is going to be one of those videos where I kind of like go off on a tangent, just in case, we're going to do my disclaimer. So, hi everyone, this is not a kid's channel. This is not for kids. If you have little ones around, please go watch something else. I do cuss in my videos. So just, yeah, watch something else. Come back. I'd love to have you here. And also, just another disclaimer, this video is mostly going to be about mental health in general, but we'll be talking about anxiety, depression, stress in general, and some of the negative effects that can have. And we'll also, briefly, I'll probably mention more serious things. So anything negative, mental health wise, or situations that are uncomfortable to talk about, like if those things make you feel any type of way, or if you're not in the best headspace right now, please skip this one. Go watch some Katie Joy stuff. It's something to laugh at this point. I think I feel like jittery trying to make this, but I guess I'll start by why I'm making this. And I will say that this is probably going to be a much longer video than what I typically make. But I wanted to sit down and talk to you guys, like genuinely just sit down in my kitchen and talk. And the reason that the reason I'm doing this is because several days ago now, Smokey Glow put out a video called Why I Almost Quit YouTube. And in this video, she was, first of all, just so incredibly brave. I can't even tell you like how much courage it takes to really, truly, authentically just sit down and say what is on your mind and what's been on your mind, and like she just flat out put it out there. And so Smoky Glow, Hannah, I doubt you'll see this, but if you see this, just thank you for making that video and for being so real and so raw and so honest and not sugarcoating it. And so if you haven't seen the video that I'm talking about, I will have it linked below. Please go watch it. She gets into, and I'm not going to get into everything she talks about, but she talks about her mental health and where that led her. And at one point she was in a hospital, and she did get to the point to where she thought about not living anymore. And for her to say that so raw and so honestly here on YouTube, to me, that, it wasn't like she hinted at it or left it to where we could speculate, like, was that what she was saying? But she didn't really say it. Like, no, she said it. And that, for me, hit home. Like, really hit home. Because I have not been making videos lately. I've been inconsistent basically all year. But while I've explained a portion of what's gone on, I don't think until this point right now that I've been ready to really get into it and really talk about things. And then of course, there's like the thought process of how much do you share? Now, me being a tiny channel, it's not as big of a deal. Someone of Hannah's size or Smoky Glow size, it's a much bigger deal. And, I think for all YouTubers, influencers of any kind, it can be very difficult to be so blunt and so out there. And while I feel like there is a certain responsibility, or how would I put that? Like, I feel like you do owe an explanation to your followers, to your subscribers, to some extent, because you guys are the reason that we're here. You're the reason we make videos. And so if, for example, me, I make a video and then I go missing for a while, I feel like you deserve an explanation. Do I feel like everyone has to go on the way Hannah did and explain it so bluntly and so much? No, like, we all have our own personal shit and we have a right to keep that to ourselves to some extent. But I sorry, now I feel like I'm already getting, like, rambling, but I have a lot of respect for what she did. And I feel like if you are comfortable enough to share, you should. Because I think it's not even a thing. Like, we all know there's a common misconception when you're watching YouTube that these people have these great lives and they're all happy and everything's great, and it's simply not always the case. Like, everybody goes through shit, no matter how many subs you have, no matter how many followers you have, no matter how much money you make, no matter what level of success you are at. Mental health is a issue for everyone. So, to get into it a little bit for myself, like I said, I have been really inconsistent all year, all of this year. And I just started at the end of last year. But, at the beginning of this year, I believe it was February I moved. Yeah. I believe I moved in February. I moved in with a roommate. I had really high hopes that I was making the right decision. I was finally gaining back some independence. And around here where I live, it's nearly impossible, unless if you have a really good paying job, to live on your own. It just is. And I'm going to get into a few things that are, like, really, that are my personal business, but I want to share it. I want to be honest and real and open, because this is my life and shit that I deal with. And honestly, I don't have very many people to talk to about it anymore, which we will also talk about. So, I've been kind of stuck in a situation for a while where I can't just go and get a better job. I can't just go and get a promotion or make more money or double my hours. And here's why. So, many of you know I suffer. I don't like saying that. Okay. I have had issues with substance abuse in the past, and I take Suboxone for that. Now, Suboxone, I don't know how everybody else's states, like, I don't know how everybody else's stuff works, but for here, Suboxone is extremely expensive. It's about $400, like, you got to pay like $70 for your urine test, and this can happen once a week. Then the visit itself is around $200 per visit, and then another $200 for your prescription. Like, might as well say $500, and that can be a week, that can be every 2 weeks, whatever. So it would be very, 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 very difficult for me to make enough money to pay my bills, to pay rent, and all of that on my own, car insurance, phone bill, gas, living expenses, food, and then to pay those types of doctor bills on top of all of that. And so I have not been able to do that, obviously, and I receive Medicaid. And I just recently started receiving food stamps But in order to keep the benefits, even though I work, see, here's the thing. If you don't work at all, you can probably get all the benefits you want and probably get way more than I do. But because I do work, which they supposedly made it to where you have to work to get the benefits, but I know a lot of people who don't work and still get the benefits. Anyway, I work, okay? But because I work, I have to keep my hours limited. I got to keep my pay rate limited in order to receive these benefits. And I have so many people say, well, why don't you just up your hours and work harder? And it's like, I still could not pay for what it takes to survive, to provide for my child, to be able to get my medication. And of course, everyone says, the next thing out of their mouth, why don't you get off Suboxone? If it were that easy, I would not be taking Suboxone. So all of that to say that I've been stuck in this in-between where, like, I can't work and make more money without losing my Medicaid. And if I lose my Medicaid, now I got to pay $500 a week, potentially, or $500 every 2 weeks just for that. So it's difficult. So when I moved in with this roommate at the beginning of the year, I felt like I had gained a little bit of independence, but I still had the help of a roommate. And at first things seemed to be okay. Needless to say, it did not work out. And I do have a video, I can't remember what I titled it. Something along the lines of being homeless, how I became homeless for a few days or so. Maybe a week or two. Anyway. But if you want to know more, I'll link that video. I just basically tell you what happened. And at that point, I'm not going to lie, like, that video was very difficult to film because it had just happened. I had just moved in where I am now with my current roommate, and that was not planned. So just to kind of sum that situation up, I was kicked out of that house for something that made no sense. My fiance had moved in over a month before, but you just have to go watch the video. Anyway, I got kicked out for a bullshit reason, and in the midst of that, had nowhere to go. Tried staying in hotels, but that was expensive. Decided that I needed to save that money so that when my daughter, because she was staying with a friend while we tried to figure things out, but I wanted to have the money for a hotel when she came back to me, like, in case we didn't have anywhere to go, so she would have a safe place to stay. So me and my fiance were sleeping in my car, and that became quite stressful, and we ended up arguing one night, and I ended up sleeping in the car by myself, which I was afraid that the police would be called if I'm just found sleeping in my car at a random place. So I came here to my roommate's house, or my friend at the time's house, and I parked in his front yard, and I sent him a text and was like, listen, I'm sleeping in my car, please don't freak out, but I'm in your front yard, I just didn't want the police to be called. And I was very lucky and fortunate enough for him to come outside the next day and be like, hey, no, you're not sleeping in your car, you're going to live with me. So I've been here ever since. But like I said, I'll link the other video I made. It's not the best video, but it was also fresh and recent. But it does explain more in detail what happened. But what I haven't talked about is everything that's happened since then. And where I've been, why I've been even more inconsistent since that time period, and just what's been going on with me in general. I'm going to have to pause for just a minute, and I'll be right back. Well, and I'm back. Alright, had a technical difficulty, but we got it straight, I think. My phone's a mess. Alright, so where did I leave off? Basically, after moving in here, when me and my fiance split up that night, when we kind of got into it. We went our separate ways. We didn't talk for a week after that. And actually, no one really knew where he was. And I think at the time I still had it in my head that we would just, he would find a place to stay. I felt guilty. I felt really guilty because, and I believe I explained this in that other video, there was nowhere for the three of us to go, me, my fiance, and my daughter. Everybody that we knew would either take him in or take us in, but not the three of us. So I felt really bad because I had a place to stay and I had no idea where he was. And it turns out he slept on the streets for about a week. And it was very hard because I think I had an expectation in my mind that we would each find a place to stay. We would kind of get back on our feet and things would be okay between us. And understand that this is someone I've known for many, many years. We've always been really good friends. We had somewhat of a relationship beforehand, and this time we were official. We were together and we were in love and we were engaged, and my daughter loved him and looked at him as a stepfather already. She was telling all her friends that was her stepdad, and they spent time together, and it's really hard to talk about still, even now. I feel like my world was just falling apart. And I don't know, I can't remember how much I was able to explain in that other video, but the reason that this was so difficult and so, I had no money, because it was so unexpected. I didn't have money put back, which that's on me. I should have. But I just recently paid off all my bills, and the only money I had left over was a little bit I had for spending money to make it to the next paycheck. Actually, no, I had just quit my job because my fiance had gotten this great job and things were going to be okay. Which is another reason you don't depend on someone else financially. And that's nothing against him, it's just you don't, because things went wrong and that job did not work out at the exact time that we lose our place to stay. So I have no job, no money, nowhere to go. I get here, I have no idea where my relationship stands. Luckily, I was able to go get a job at a place I worked before. I actually got that while I was still living in my car. I started when I started living here, and then I went back to my other old job. But the relationship situation, it never got fixed, and it caused a lot of depression. And I feel guilty, almost ashamed. Honestly, I feel very ashamed that it carried so much weight. And I shouldn't feel that way, but I do. Of course, I had all the other stress. I needed money. I needed to get my shit together. I needed to get on my feet. I needed to start paying roommate money. I needed to make sure my daughter had what she needed, which, she always did. But I felt like growing up, my parents have always been together. They've been together for forever. And I remember hearing about their, friends and, their opinions of, women choosing men over their kids or letting that hold more weight. And so in my mind, my depression over my loss of my fiance, like our relationship ending, I felt like I was ashamed of feeling so down and so incapable of snapping out of it. I felt ashamed of that because I felt like, I should be more worried about, you know, getting my financial shit straight or getting, and it's not that I wasn't worried about that, but a lot of my depression centered around losing the relationship that I had, but it wasn't just losing a boyfriend, it was losing my future husband, my daughter's future stepfather. It was losing our family that we were building together. And this isn't just, over a short span of time. This is years. So I felt like my whole future and everything that I had so clearly seen in my mind was just gone. My whole future, my hopes, my dreams, my life that I thought I was finally going to have was gone. But everyone around me made me feel ashamed of even thinking of him. Oh, he's a piece of shit, he left you. It just, no matter what everyone's opinion of him may be, it didn't help me in that moment deal with what I needed to deal with. I was still losing all of that, and no one seemed to care. It was just, why do you care about him? He's a piece of shit. He left you. It didn't help at all. And it made me feel more depressed, more isolated, because I couldn't talk to anybody about it. No one cared about what I was going through, what I was dealing with, what I was feeling in that moment. It was just, you shouldn't give a fuck about him because he didn't give a fuck about you. And that's simply not the case. He went on quite a downward spiral himself because in his mind, he had gotten that job. He was supposed to be the man, the provider, and it didn't work out. And here we were sleeping in my car, which is something he never would have wanted for us, ever. And so he felt like, as the man, he failed. And I know this because we've talked since, and I understood it in that moment, even throughout the argument and us going our separate ways. I understood it, but no one else seemed to. And to this day, I can't talk about him to anyone, and it sucks because that was a huge deal for me. But I felt guilty and I felt ashamed for feeling how I felt, and I had no one to turn to. I mean, and obviously that wasn't the only cause or source of what I was going through, what I was feeling. Like I said, there was a ton of stress, a ton of guilt for not already having a backup plan, for not already having money put back. How was I not prepared for this? There a ton of guilt, a ton of stress. And it really felt like my world, my life was falling apart, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing I could do to put it back together. And I hate to pause again, but my phone is dying, so we're going to have to relocate. Just hang tight. Ah, I dropped you. Well, I found a new place to film. Right in my bed. Oh, well. We'll see how it goes, right? I apologize. This video is a hot mess. Like I am. And it is really long already. Yeah. So, felt alone. Felt incredibly stressed, depressed, just hopeless. Like, really hopeless. And I began to question everything. Sorry, the cat is now on my charger cord. You want to see my new cat? Oh. This is Kova. We do not have Mr. Oreo anymore because of the moving situation we could not bring him, and he had to go stay with my parents. But we have Kova, which was just an unexpected rescue. That's just what my daughter does, and we love her very much, and we still love Oreo, so. So at the time, I was feeling extremely isolated, lonely, stressed, depressed, anxious, hopeless, and lost in every way, and heartbroken. Just not just for the relationship shit, but just in general, just heartbroken. And one of the hardest things, and one of the things that I'm still trying to deal with now, when all of this happened, when I ended up sleeping in my car, when I called my parents and I spoke to my mom, and I explained that, we no longer have a place to stay, which she knew the person that I was living with, and was like, well, what'd you expect? She has a history of fucking me over, to be quite honest. But this time it was more her mom, but whatever. So my mom was basically like, I told you so. And she offered to take my daughter in, which I do appreciate. And I knew that she wasn't going to let me and my fiance stay there, but I'm not going to lie, like, it really deeply hurt me that neither of my parents offered a place for me to stay. Not even on the couch. Not, hey, like everyone else said, hey, you two can stay, but he can't. I would have understood that. But no, it was my daughter could stay and I couldn't. And that's never been my family. Like, we have always been so close. And I'm still dealing with that now. Just recently, I asked my mom, because I heard my brother was moving out, and I asked, if when he moved out, could I rent the upstairs of the house? I told her how much I could pay and all of that good stuff. And even that was met with just, I don't even know how much of that I want to get into right now, because that is something still going on. Let's just say it wasn't a welcomed idea, and it hurts. And I think that was really, like, of all the stress, of all the anxiety, all of the heartbreak and pain and all the shit that I was feeling about all of it, out of all of that, I think what hurt the absolute most was knowing that I had nowhere to fall back on. I have no other family members that I can go to. I don't have an aunt or an uncle that I can just, like, go to their house and be like, hey, can I crash on your couch? That's not an option for me. I don't have that. All I've ever had are my parents, my brother, and my grandma. I couldn't go crash at my grandma's house. My brother lives with my parents, and honestly, I don't think even if he had a house that I could stay there. And it's crazy to me because it's not like, I could understand back when I was using drugs, that would have been a fairly good fucking reason to be like, no. But I don't get it. I mean, like, yes, I get it. My parents have always raised me that once you're an adult and you're out on your own, you figure shit out. I get that. But at the same time, like, I was trying not to get emotional, but it's hard not to. It wasn't something I did to myself. It wasn't a position that I mean, I guess, yes, it was, because I should have, A, known better than to move in with that roommate to begin with, and B, I should have had money put back, and but It really was so unexpected. And it wasn't like I really did something to be kicked out, you know. And so, mm, I was at the lowest point in my life. And I had no one except for my roommate and another friend of ours. But I had no one and nothing else. And I was terrified that I was going to lose my kid. So everything since then has just been really, really difficult because I have felt so incredibly alone and so hopeless. And yes, I do have my friends. You know, I do have my roommate, and thank God for that. But for the first time in my life, I don't have my family anymore. I don't have their support and their love. Feels like the only reason they even keep in touch with me is for my kid. And I don't understand why. Like, I don't. And so, I did reach a point where I started to question what I had done. Where did I go wrong? And if I deserved to be a mom because I couldn't provide for my own kid, then obviously my parents don't seem to think I'm the good mom that I thought I was, or a good kid, or a good daughter. And I just reached a point where I thought maybe my child would be better off without me. Maybe everything would be better if I wasn't here. And a part of that did have something to do with my fiance or ex-fiance, because we kept trying to talk, trying to fix it, trying to figure out how to get back to where we were, and we couldn't. So between like my parents and feeling like I'm losing my family and losing him, and not being able to give my daughter what she deserves, I had a moment where I just, for the first time in my life, like, I've never wanted to hurt myself. I've never felt that way before, and thank God I haven't since. But like, for that time, that one moment in time, I thought that's what I need to do, and I couldn't.